Tim Duncan is possibly the most underrated NBA legend of all time. He's considered by many to be the greatest power forward of all time, but isn't talked about in the same conversations of other top 10 players and even players who are ranked much lower in the all-time list than he is. This is mostly because of his quote-unquote boring style of play, but throughout his career he was incredibly effective and was the best player on one of the greatest dynasties of all time. Nicknamed the Big Fundamental, his game wasn't flashy or necessarily exciting to watch for the casual NBA fan, but if you enjoy watching winning fundamental basketball, you would enjoy watching Timmy D and the dynasty Spurs throughout their 20-year dynasty. Drafted number 1 overall in 1997 by a Spurs team that already had an elite big man in David Robinson, Duncan had incredible expectations on his shoulders, but managed to surpass all of them en route to becoming quite possibly the greatest power forward to ever play the game of basketball. Throughout his career, the Big Fundamental amassed 15 All-NBA appearances and 15 All-Star appearances, won 5 NBA championships, 3 Finals MVPs, and 2 regular season MVPs, as well as playing elite on the defensive end of the ball, and was named to 15 all-defensive teams. His all-around game of both an elite offensive post-game and an elite defensive presence propelled the Spurs to a dynasty that lasted throughout his entire career. And throughout Tim Duncan's NBA career, he was always considered to be one of the most classy and talented players in the entire league. And many fans fell in love with the game based on this Spurs team because of the way that they were able to move the basketball and the selfless team play that they exhibited on a night-to-night basis. And Tim Duncan was the epitome of a great teammate as well, because even when he was at the top of the game and had won 2 MVPs back-to-back, he was still very down-to-earth, gave his team a lot of credit, and was willing to take less of a superstar role and didn't play the big superstar demeanor in order to win championships with his team, and always was able to put the team above his personal accolades, even though he did win accolades almost every single year of his career. And throughout the career of Tim Duncan, he went down as not only one of the best basketball players and best forwards of all time, but one of the greatest teammates and greatest winners of all time as well, because there's a lot of players that can put up big numbers or flashy stats or win a regular season MVPs if you look at James Harden and other players. But looking at Tim Duncan is the epitome of winning basketball. And he didn't demand touches. You never heard about drama or controversies within the Spurs locker room that had to do with Tim Duncan. But he always came to play and put up his 24 and 10 every single game, and was just very consistent on offense and on defense. He wouldn't get upset. He wouldn't throw a temper tantrum on the court if he didn't get the ball enough, but he just came to work and played basketball the right way, night in and night out. And for a real diehard basketball fan, he may have been the most satisfying player to watch in NBA history. And while a lot of casual fans will not understand this, then for the real NBA fan who watches night in and night out, he is very pleasing to watch. One great testament to Tim Duncan's selflessness and team-first attitude was the fact that he never averaged over 25.5 points per game throughout any one season. While a lot of MVPs and superstars took a lot of shots and would average more points and have more pleasing numbers, he was very willing to defer to his teammates in a lot of situations, but would go to work and just get buckets when he needed to. And throughout that season where he had 25.5 points per game, he did win MVP and shot about 51% from the field and 80% from the free throw line, while averaging 12.7 rebounds a game and 4 assists a game. But the biggest blessing that he provided to that Spurs team was his 2.5 blocks a game that season. And while he never led the NBA in blocks or won a Defensive Player of the Year award, Tim Duncan was one of the greatest two-way players in the history of basketball. And he was just a consistent player night in and night out for the San Antonio Spurs, and was a key part to why they were able to have a dynasty that lasted for so long. A lot of dynasties come through the first 3 to 4 years of their reign of the NBA. And after those first 3 to 4 years, everybody else on this team starts to look for their own money, their own accolades, their own self achievements before the team. And that's why so many dynasties are broken up, or potential dynasties are broken up. And that's the biggest difference with this Spurs team, is that they had selfless players that were willing to play a role and realize that they were just one part of the wheel that made this team go. And Tim Duncan was the epitome of that as their leader. He was willing to take a back seat in the media, take a back seat in everything, just so that his team would continue to succeed. Team success was more important than anything to Tim Duncan, and that's what makes his legacy as high as it is, because at the end of the day, he is a 5-time champion and 3-time finals MVP, and that's all that ever mattered to him, and all the accolades that came with that mattered so much less to him than anything else, but they always came because of how dominant of a player he was, but he would never tell you that. Anyways, let me know where you think that he ranks all time. Let me know if you think that he is the greatest power forward of all time. God bless you all. I hope you have an amazing day, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on your post notifications. God bless.